When you go into the tune-up, your goal is to make the car easy to run, fun to run, so that you can get into it. It starts easily and it runs powerfully throughout its range. You never get in the car, start it up, and then walk away for the car to warm up. You get into it and you start driving it. It's like any other car in the world. So put your foot to the floor, pull the choke all the way out, start the car up, immediately relax the choke until the car runs the best. You're pushing the choke back in an inch, 3 inches, where it runs the best. And then after a period of 3 minutes or 3 miles, the car should be so warm that it's reached operating temperature and you can have the choke off all the way. This usually is self-evident when you hit the stop sign or stoplight and the car's going boom, 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 boom. You go, shit, I forgot to take the choke off. So you relax the choke. There you go. The tune-up is a function of four main sections of the car. Emissions, as great or as slight as they are. You go, I've got a TC, I don't have emissions. Yeah, I'm going to tell you, yes, you do. Not like we know them, but yeah, there's something there. So we've got emissions, preliminaries, engine, ignition, and fuel in that order. You must take them in that order. So I worked with some cars this past weekend. The owners had worked with them. My buddy told me it was the coil, so I went out and bought a coil. And my other buddy said it was this. My other buddy said it was that. It's like, dude, stop. Just go through the checklist. If you go through the checklist completely, the car has no option but to run perfectly at the end. One of the first things that you do is check the compression. I can't be more emphatic about that. You check the compression because just like when you walk in the doctor's office, what's the first thing they do? But throw the cuff on your arm. It just tells them so much right there. And don't ignore that step. I ignored it once a long, long time ago, tuning up a car in front of a group of people at Stonehenge in Chicago. And finally, after like 3 hours of not being able to get this thing tuned right, I finally pulled out my compression gauge and had a bad cylinder on number three. It's like, duh, it was a long time ago. So my rules made up here that you can download, print out. Those are practiced. Those are true rules, and they've been built up over years of experience. So believe me, this is the way to do it. Now, do you have to do a complete tune-up when you get it out in the springtime? Nah. We used to have a tune-up that we called the Brandon tune-up, named after Brandon DeHaan, who worked for me. And it was just the very sort of lightest stuff. You check the compression, always check the compression. Clean the plugs, clean and gap the plugs, adjust the carburetors, send the car out the door. But really, there's more to it. So let's talk a little bit about the first step, which is preliminaries and emissions. You have to have half a tank of fresh gasoline. At least half a tank. You can't tune it on 3-year-old gasoline. Well, you can, but when you're done and then you put fresh gasoline in it, it's going to run differently than what you tuned it up for. Plus, it's horrible trying to get the thing operational. So if you've got a full tank of gas in there, you got to run through that gasoline. If you've got non-alcohol gasoline, there's no problem. That works out. And apparently there's some things you can dump into the gasoline that'll stabilize it. Used to be they put ethanol in the gas to stabilize it. But now we got so much trouble with the ethanol in the gasoline degrading rubber parts that I don't know what goes in there. But there's sea foam. There's all kinds of stuff you can get stable to put in the gas tank. But still, when you go to tune it up the next spring, when you go to get it out, don't tune it until you got some miles on it and you got some fresh gasoline back in the tank. It's really important. The next thing is, once you start it and go out and driving it, it should reach operating temperature within 3 minutes or 3 miles. Easy. It either does or doesn't. If it doesn't come up to temperature that quickly, then there's something wrong with the thermostat, and you want to change the thermostat before you start to get too deep into it. The engine runs in a very specific temperature range, top and bottom. Say from about 190 up to 220 or so. It loves to run in that range. If you're trying to run it at 160, it's like the clearances aren't as great as they should be, and you're always going to have it richer than it should be. So make sure that you get out in this climate up here. We put a 195 thermostat in it. I understand that people in Florida take the thermostats out, which is wrong because you've got to have that bottom. You've got to have that bottom part of the range. The upper part of the range has to do with the ambient air temperature and how much heat you're trying to dissipate through the radiator. But I'm talking about the bottom here. And so maybe down there you want 180. But up here in Michigan, where I am, it's 195. So you want to get that up so that the engine runs up to the operating temperature very, very quickly. And then it makes the enjoyment of the car greater when you go out to drive it. You also want to find any vacuum leaks that there are. Oh my gosh, a vacuum leak, you can tune the car all day long and you're trying to tune it through some vacuum leak and you can't do it. So at Mark's shop, there's a younger fellow with a 1275 midget came in and he said, geez, I can't get the idle down. I said, well, here, let's try this. So I took a can of spray carburetor cleaner, toluene, and acetone. That's the best kind of carb cleaner. But you can use starting fluid. You can use brake clean, and you spray it all around the inlet system of the engine. You're looking for a change in the RPM. Now, if you train that stuff right at the throttle shaft, all throttle shafts leak a little bit. All of them leak a little bit. But if you got a big leak, then the RPM will rise or fall dramatically. You want to know of that. You want to take care of that before you start tuning. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time. In this case, with the 1275 midget, there's a particular fault on the 1275s where the intake manifold comes loose. So I was able to grab the air cleaners and move the air cleaners that much up and down, tunk, 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 tunk. And of course, the RPM changed as I moved the air cleaners up and down. And not only were the air cleaners loose, but the intake manifold and the carburetors, the linkage, everything was loose. So we tightened those up, took care of the problem. Anyway, you want to make sure, I've got to refer to my notes here, that system is working correctly. Then after you've sprayed between the head, the manifold, the heat shield, the spacer blocks, all around the carburetors, around the brake servo, in case the brake servo is leaking, any place that might be leaking air. If you still have your smog system on, the air pump and everything, it's going to be leaking everywhere. Oh my gosh, the best thing you can do is take that smog pump off. The engine looks cleaner. It doesn't rob it of horsepower right at the engine, and it's a whole lot easier to tune. Of course, if you're in California and it's 1976 or later, newer, that's what I mean, then you have to have that stuff on there to pass. Doesn't matter if it meets the emission standards or not. If the equipment's not in place, it'll fail. So it's very difficult to get 76 through 80 MGBs through the smog system in California. I don't know about the rest of the several states that still have emission standards. Usually you can get yourself exempted for one reason or another. Anyway, then you want to take a look at the oil and filter. Now, if you stored your car correctly, you stored it with fresh oil so that the acids and stuff in the oil didn't etch the bearings while the car was sitting still. But if you didn't, or if the car has been running and it's been running really rich, and the oil control rings, instead of scraping oil back down into the sump, have been scraping raw fuel back down in the sump, and you've got a lot of gasoline in the oil, You've got to have fresh oil to tune the car. You can't have polluted oil. You can't have it polluted with gasoline. If there's gasoline in the oil, it's going to get drawn up through the PCV system, and it's going to change the mixture, and you're going to end up adjusting the carburetor's lean to make up for the gasoline fumes going into the PCV system, and then at high speed, the car isn't going to run right. So you want to make sure the oil is fresh, clean. That only makes sense. When you're checking the compression, you're looking for consistency. So take all four spark plugs out, spin the engine over, up through 67. There's a push button. MGAs and T-types have got a switch. Of course, you ruin your thumb pressing on the switch, but you can do it. In 1970 through 1980, there's a wire, a white with brown. You can pull off the starter relay and spin the engine over. Only the 68 and 69s do you have to actually get back inside the car and spin it over. There's no other way to get to it. Unless you separate the white with reds to go down to the neutral safety switch, which is designed for the automatic MGBs, 68 and 69, that were not imported to the United States. But all of them have this white with red wire down by the starter motor, 68 and 69. Anything before that, anything after that, you can start from underneath the bonnet. I think maybe it's my MG video number 5, number 8, something or other, that I show you what wire to pull off the starter relay, 70 through 80, and where to touch it to make the engine spin over. You can't steal the car because if you don't have the key and you got a locking steering column, all you can do is spin the car over. But that's what you want to do when you're checking the compression. So you put the compression gauge in the number 1 hole and bump it over. Bump a bump a bump a bump a bump 10 times. I bump it over 10 times, write the number down, go to number 2. Try that, try 3, try 4. In an MGB, the cylinder which is lowest is almost always number 3. If there is one that's low, almost always is number 3. Number 3 exhaust. Can't tell you exactly why the exhaust fails on number 3, but that's usually where the problem lies. If it's low on number 3. But you don't take the cylinder head off if it's low. There's still a lot more to do before you would stop the tune-up and take the cylinder head loose and have it remachined. So at this point, you want to clean or gap the spark plugs. You can clean spark plugs with a propane torch. Just get them real hot, burn out the carbon. With compressed air, you can sandblast them. You can put in brand new plugs. I always use Champion plugs because that's what I'm used to using, but I know a lot of people use other styles of plugs, but get the correct plug and always gap the plug at 35. It doesn't matter if it's a T-type or 1980 MGB or a midget 11-1500 TF. Gap them all at 35 thousandths. You want a nice big gap there, so the spark has got to be really hot, and it'll light up the gasoline. And the T-types, there's a change in the length of the plug real early on in the TD, where they change from a 1/2 inch plug to a 3/4 inch plug. But who knows what cylinder head's on your car? I can't remember off the top of my head how to tell which cylinder head is separate from another, but there are 1/2 inch and there are 3/4 inch plugs, and you want to make sure that you've got the correct one in the cylinder. Change the thermostat now before you take the valve cover off. And once you change the thermostat, and that's done, if you're going to do that, then you can take the valve cover off and torque the head and adjust the valves. So torquing the head is really easy. There's a pattern in all of our workshop manuals: T-type, MGA, MGB, MGC. All of them have got a pattern, and if you connect the dots, like when you were a kid and connecting the dots and drawing a little diagram, almost always it's a spiral from the center that gets larger and larger as you go out. It's as though you were putting a bumper sticker on your car that said, "I've visited beautiful Oscoda Falls," You put the bumper stick around in the middle and push it out to push all the air bubbles out. That's why you start at the middle. When you're torquing the cylinder head, you first of all, you take one stud, back the nut off, put oil on it, and then torque it down. Then go to the next stud, back it off, oil it, pull it down. When you're torquing the cylinder head, only 1/3 of the torque goes into compressive force on the cylinder head gasket. You've got a lot of it that's chewed up between the nut and the washer, or the nut and the head, and you got a lot of it, another third of it chewed up between the interference of the threads on the stud and the nut. So make sure that you've got them oiled so they're all consistent, and that when you're turning one, it's as though you're turning all the others, in that the resistance to turn is now lubricated by oil, and you're not fighting rust, you're not fighting corrosion. Um, so back it off halfway up, torque it back down. Sometimes when you back off the cylinder head nut, the whole stud comes loose. Then what do? You put the stud in your vise, and undo the nut from the top. Sometimes the nut will come off my hand. It's like, why would the nut come off my hand when it took the whole stud out? Because the resistance to turn of the stud to the block was less than it was between the stud and the nut. When you put the stud back in the engine, which you can do judiciously, carefully, with a stud replacer, if you've got one, or being very gentle with a pair of vice grips, you get it about as tight as you can get it with your wrist. That's as tight as you want the stud into the top of the block. Then you can go ahead and put the washer back on, put the nut on, put some oil on it. If you use vice grips very gently, it'll bugger up the threads a little tiny bit, but you don't want the vice grip to turn on the stud. That'll really mash the threads. So just do it. It'll be all right. I can assure you from years of doing this. This is not an airplane. We don't have to worry about everything being perfect. You're not going to drop out of the sky. And the original studs in the engine are far better than anything else you can buy on the market, except for the ARP studs, which are, I don't know, $200 a set or something. It's unnecessary. But the factory studs are just great. So we've torqued the head down, and then we go ahead and adjust the valves. Except for the 6 cylinders, all the 4-cylinder engines are the same, and they fire 1, 3, 4, 2. And if the plugs are back in the engine, then you can hit the starter motor, and the engine will come to rest. And when the starter motor comes to rest, the pistons are basically halfway up their stroke. They're either here or here, depending on where the flywheel comes to rest. You do that 4 times, and you get all 4 alignments of the camshaft with the valves. So you can adjust 2 valves at once. You bump it over, and let's say 1 and 3 are open. You can look at them. You can see the valves are open. You adjust the opposite 2 valves, which are in this case 6 and 8, because the valve that's open added to the valve to be adjusted always equals 9. MGC, Big Healy, that number's 13. So you always adjust the opposite valves. You adjust 2, bump it, adjust 2, bump it, adjust 2, bump it, adjust 2. They're all done. Now you start the car up now. Start it up with the valve cover off. That's kind of exciting. And you watching all the valves working. Set the idle way, 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 way down. So it's just bumping over as slowly as you can. Put your chin on the fender, look across the valve train, and make sure that all the valves are moving the same amount. Now, there's no easy way to measure it. There just is not. If you want to see what the condition of the camshaft is, you have to take the valve train apart on the engine, use a dial indicator. There's a lot of complication in doing that. It's unnecessary here. The camshaft guys will tell you that if the cam is worn more than 10 thousandths, it's time to get a new cam. Those are the same guys who are telling you to buy tires and brake lines every 10 years. But there's something to it. There's something to it. But the rocker arm ratio between the push rod and the valve is 1.4 to 1, call it 1.5 to 1. The camshaft lift on an MGB engine is 0.265, call it 250, call it a quarter of an inch. So a quarter of an inch times 1.5 is 3/8 of an inch. So the valves, when you're watching the valves work, when the engine's idling with the valve cover off, the valves are all moving about 3/8 of an inch. There's no way that you can see a difference in opening of 15 thousandths or 20 thousandths. But if you can see a difference, if you can see a difference, all the valves are doing this and one of them's just doing this, you know that that camshaft, to use the common breakfast expression, is toast. And it'll pass the compression test. It'll pass that test just fine. But engine can't breathe. So it'll idle all right, you can tune it all right, but you go out to put it out on the road and it hasn't got the power it should. So just take a look at the cam, make sure that that's okay. If that's okay, then go ahead and put the valve cover back on, and we're done with the engine except for tightening the fan belt. Why would you even tighten the fan belt during a tune-up? Because you got to tighten the fan belt sometime, and this is the place that I've put it in the instructions here to do it. If the generator or alternator isn't spinning fast enough to recharge the battery, you're not going to be able to drive the car. So it's important that you get this thing taken care of. The next system, after we're done with the engine, is the ignition system, and that includes the coil, the wiring, the distributor, the cap and rotor, and the plug wires. Of course, it includes the plugs too, but the plugs are part of the engine. We've already done that. So if you got an ohm meter, you can test the resistance of the wires. We did that on a car at Quality Coaches this past week, and the main coil wire was faulty. So it's like, well, let's just put a replacement coil wire on it. And one of the guys said, no, 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 let's just use a new set of wires, another cap. Okay, all right, let's test those new wires. Two were faulty. Two new wires out of the pack were faulty. So put no meter on it. You're looking for consistency. Something below 20,000 ohms. If a wire's twice as long as another one's going to have twice the amount of resistance to it. But if you're in the 6,000 ohm area, 2,000 ohm area, it's just fine. It's just fine. But if you got like 2,000, 3,000, 2,500, 3,000, and 80 million, 80 million ohms or something, it's like, no, 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 no. You gotta make them consistent. So we're after getting the wires consistent. Cap and rotor have to be clean. They got to be really clean. You can take it if you're the other person in charge of your household is not there. You can take it in the kitchen sink and wash it in there. Get all the grime off it. There is a carbon button in the middle of the distributor cap. So it's really easy. You get it all cleaned up. You take your air gun, pss, 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 pss. You get it near that carbon button, out the carbon button goes. And despite all my talk about keeping your workshop clean, even a clean workshop, it's hard to find this little tiny carbon button with a spring on it. So you got to buy a whole nother cap. Put your thumb on the carbon button if you're spraying it off. You'll thank me. You'll thank me for it. So just offhand, you can take the whole distributor apart. You might choose to and lubricate the base plate and contact breaker plate. You want to check the vacuum advance. If it's a ported vacuum car and the vacuum advance doesn't work, it really doesn't affect the driving a lot, not a lot. But if it's manifold vacuum, 1972 onwards, the condition of the vacuum advance is critical to operation. It's because of the way the emissions were done and the fact that it brings the idle vacuum up to about where it should be, where it idles very, very nicely. So again, ported vacuum, If it doesn't work, no big deal. But the manifold vacuum, oh my gosh, it makes all the difference in the world. So you want to check your point gap. The point gap on all of our cars is 15 thousandths, except for the earliest T-types with a symmetric and asymmetric cams. Those are 12. And the dwell is 60 degrees. The dwell is the amount of time during an a cylinder's operation, which is 90 degrees here on the cap on the distributor. 90 degrees is one cylinder's worth of operation. That means that the points are closed 60 degrees and the points are open 30 degrees. So the dwell is the amount of time the points are open. If you got a dwell meter, that's cool. You can put it on there. We've had lots of bad condensers, but a bad condenser usually makes the car run not at all, but sometimes it'll make it run real crappy. And so you can put another condenser on. Sometimes that condenser is bad. It's really hard to test a condenser with the tools that you've got. You've got an ohm meter. You can find out if it doesn't work, but you can't find out if it does work. If that makes any sense. Um, anyway, get that distributor cleaned up. You cannot work a distributor in the engine. You can't get to it. You can't get your hands on it.
John,
Yeah,
you want to make sure the condenser is tight to the plate.
thank
There's a
you.
little screw on there. You might want to put a little star washer on there to make sure. Because I've had mine come loose a couple times and get
Yeah.
sporadic running.
Oh,
Yeah, it
yeah.
ain't fun when you end up your engine just stops at the stoplight and you can't get it started and you're like,
Yeah.
what the heck's going on?
Oh,
Yes,
man.
sir.
Yeah.
Especially
So
in rush hour traffic too. That's fun when you're in New York City.
Glenn Lenhard said that for 100 years, the automotive industry was making condensers just fine. And then about 10 years ago, they forgot how. But I think that had to do probably with where they were having them made. Anyway, the
Quick
condensers.
before we continue this, there was a story a friend of my dad's was told to my dad about how one time he was going cross country. He was in Scotland and his car just died, just in the middle of the road, just died. So he couldn't figure it out. So eventually he had some guys from the town that he just passed bring it over to the nearest town, brought it into their little shop, and they couldn't get it running. And they said, you probably got a bad condenser. He went scouring for it, couldn't find it. So he said, screw it. Put a Land Rover condenser in it. Ran perfect, got home, got on work,
Yep.
didn't die at all. It was the MGB condensers did not have the same quality as the Range Rovers. And it was 10 years newer than the one that he had. So it's like the British cross comparisons, you know? The Brits always do something weird, but always something cool at the same time.
Well, any condenser is better than no condenser. So yeah, yeah. Anyway, thanks both of you for the condenser is a real problem with a lot of these. Right now, both Schlemmer and Medinsky at Advanced Distributor in Minnesota and British Vacuum Unit in New Hampshire, both those guys rebuilding cars. They both use the red rotors, which are got a much higher dielectric value to them. And they also use condensers that they both claim are absolutely excellent. So anyway, when you go to put the distributor back into the car, you use a lot of grease, absolutely, so that the next time it comes out really easily. Then you time the car. You can get it just close for now until you get underneath with a timing light or on top if you're 72 or newer. And the timing on all of the cars, 1945 through 1980, not twin cams, not V8s, and not an MGF, but that's after 1980. The timing is always 32 degrees before top dead center at full mechanical advance, vacuum disconnected. Take the vacuum loose, you rev it up. The most advanced you should get is 32. Where? Up around 4 or 5,000 RPM. Some of them have to be moving real fast to get that, but that's where the timing is correct. after that, then you can hook up the vacuum advance.
Hey, John,
Yes,
what's
Tom.
what's the difference between the black rotor and the red rotor?
The black rotors are of they break down more easily. So
It's the material that it's made
yes,
out of.
yes. Yep.
Okay, I never heard that, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Don't the black rotors have a rivet in them that shorts to the spindle?
Oh, some of them do, some of them are glued. So it just depends. But there was never a problem with rotors. I mean, rotors work fine until I don't know what 19 I don't know, year 2000, something like that. And Lucas was still manufacturing, and they made rotors which are a little too small. And when you'd go to put them on the distributor, you sort of had to tunk them to get them over the distributor shaft. That would crack them, or at least leave them prone to cracking. And then God knows they changed the composition of the plastic. And once you pick up a track on a rotor, you're dead in the water. I mean, you can have a track on a cap and you'll run on
What
three
are we
cylinders.
doing?
So, Brian? Oh,
Oh,
that's why I have my mute all. Anyway,
sorry, John.
Hey.
I grabbed my headset and it unmuted me. I'm sorry.
That's all right. It's okay. It's all right. So we're setting the timing at 32 degrees on all of the cars at high RPM. So you can use a dial back timing light. You can use a regular timing light. There's lots of different ways to go at this, but know that that's where it's supposed to be. So now you can take a break. You can take a break after the first step or the second after the engine. You don't have to do this all in one day. You don't have to do it all in 4 hours. To be fair, you probably ought to do it all within a month or something, but or not stretch it out over a period of years. But you don't have to do it all at once, but do each section completely. And at the end of doing that section, start the car back up and you're sure that it's running. So now we're over to the fuel section, the carburetor section, which is always the mysterious part of it. But it's actually just like anything else, it's straightforward. Most of us have got two carburetors. Each carburetor has to be doing exactly the same thing as the other. So if one of them's drawing a certain amount of air, the other one has to be drawing a certain amount of air at the same time. There are cams on the side of the distributor to allow it to run faster when you've got the choke pulled out. So clean the carburetors. The carburetors get gummy. Take the suction chambers off. Take the air pistons out. Use some good carburetor cleaner. Spray them all out. Get them cleaned up. Take the float bowl lids off the float bowls, put those off to the side, sop the gasoline out of the float bowls. In the bottom of the float bowl are some depressions, and that picks up silt like it does in a good wine bottle. I don't buy good wine very often, but that's what they tell me, that the inside of there to catch the dirt and crap. So get that nice and clean. Get that clean. If you got compressed air, it's really nice. You can spray the carburetor cleaner in there and spray them all off and get them real nice. There's a function of matching the air pistons, which I won't talk about, only to say that it can be important. So the air pistons are important. The matching those, the fall rate. We'll talk about that some other time. And you get the thing back together. You make sure the float height is correct. There are different float heights for the inch and a quarter H's and the inch and a half H4s. There's a float height for the MGB carburetors, 1/8 to 3/16 of an inch, and that's before the spring is collapsed on the needle and seat. Turn the float bowl lid over and just make sure it's all right. Shake the float and make sure it's a float, not a sink. You want to make sure that on the HS carburetors that the float isn't able to jiggle back and forth. Some of them have a stamped steel hinge on them. You can flatten those out with a pair of pliers a little bit so that they don't wobble much at all. I remember we had a couple of customers who'd come in and say, I don't know, but you know, 62 miles an hour, all of a sudden my car runs crappy. I smell gas. Above that, below that, it's just fine. Take the carburetors apart, and the floats are just really loose. So it must be at 62 miles an hour at 30 some hundred RPM. You just set up the magic place where the float starts shaking, it lets extra gasoline in, starts running rich, and it's dumping gasoline out. Anyway, make sure the floats are free to move, absolutely, but they're not really wobbly. Then you put them back together, start the car up, and check the airflow, one carburetor against the other. They both have to be drafting the same. If you've got a unison, it's easy. You got a little ball that bobs up and down. You can follow that. There's a meter that if you got doesn't work on a TF because there's not enough room to put it in there, but a longer thing with a little dial on the top, and you can fiddle with those back and forth. I'm happy to use a foot and a half long piece of heater hose. I put it to my ear and I put it down in the throat and listen to it. And you just make sure that that noise is the same front and rear. Sometimes there's a different tone and you're after the volume of air going through. Sometimes it's a little difficult. Most always it's okay to do. And so you get those matched. Now they're matched. So now the car's running, the air, the pistons are matched, the airflow is matched. You're running it at whatever you want to run at for idle, 800 RPM, 900,000 or so. Now you lift the air piston. You take a this is a pen, but pretend it's a little tiny screwdriver with a blade on the end, and you put it down the throat of the carburetor, and you turn it. You turn the screwdriver so the blade just barely lifts, just barely disturb the position of that air piston. And one of three things is going to happen when you disturb the position of the air piston. The car is going to run faster, faster, faster if it's adjusted already too rich. It's going to stumble and fall if it's already too lean, or if it's perfect, the RPM goes up about 50, 75, and then falls away. You can see that on an old-fashioned tachometer, a tach with a needle. You can't use a tachometer here. It's got a digital display. Looks like a gasoline pump running forward and backwards. But if you've got a needle, you can see that needle just kick. You can hear it. So you work the front carburetor, then you work the rear carburetor. It's great. Now they're both drafting the same amount of air. The airflow is the same. Now we pull the choke out until the car runs the fastest. Okay, it's already hot, it's already running, but you pull the choke out until it's running the fastest, and then adjust the carburetors with the fast idle screws. This is not MGA, can't do it on the H types, but all the HS carburetors, the midgets and the Cs and the Bs. Pull it out so that it's running the fastest, and then adjust it so it's running about 1600, and both airflows are the same. Again, it's just listening to the flow of the air. Now you shut the car off and you open the throttle by hand, and as you turn the throttle, this is on the Bs and the midgets, 1275 midgets, and turn the throttle shaft just a little tiny bit and make sure that the fingers that are out on the end, the fingers catch the carburetors and open the carburetors exactly at the same time. You spend all this time making it perfect. Now you don't want to have one carburetor open in advance of the other. So get those things adjusted, put the air cleaners back on, go out and test drive it, and you're all done.
Hey, John,
Yes.
real quick, when you're putting the dash pots and the pistons back in, don't make sure you don't flip-flop them back and forth, front to back.
Well, you can make a case for that, but if they're spring-loaded needles, if they're
Yeah.
spring-loaded 69 onwards, that doesn't make any difference switching them. You shouldn't change them suction chamber to air piston.
Right.
That should be the same. But on a T-type, you can make a case that you shouldn't mix the pistons front and rear because the jets have been centered against that piston with that suction chamber. So sometimes it gets a little dicey, but that is part of the tune-up is matching the air pistons to get the drop rate the same or as close as you can get it.
Mhm.
So anyway, so on a Stromberg carburetor, all this is grossly simplified because now all you have to do is worry about adjusting one screw to get your 800 RPM, adjusting the mixture with the Stromberg. You've got the tool that comes down the top, the 1/8 inch Allen wrench with the barrel around it that keeps the air piston from turning and tearing the diaphragm. And then when you're done there, then you can adjust the fast idle RPM in much the same way. So anyway, the Stromberg carburetors will not run. Stromberg cars will not run without air cleaners. You got to have the factory air cleaner on them to make them run correctly. I guess there are some aftermarket air cleaners that work, but better just to use the factory ones. I just took a set of nice chrome little pancake filters. Oh, they look so cute off an MGB. And I said, what are you doing with these things on here? The filtering element's only that wide, that thick, and about that long, whereas the original MG air filter, the paper, the zigzag on the inside is that tall, and I can't even lean back far enough to tell you how long that piece of paper is. It's all zigzagged in there. So 63 through 74, do not throw away your air filters. Of course, the home market cars kept using the carburetors all the way through. Right, use that air filter assembly right through the very end and used HIF carburetors. So anyway, that's kind of it. I've chewed up an hour here going
Hey,
over
John.
this at lightning speed.
Hey,
So-
John,
Yes.
I've got an 80 Roadster, and regarding the air filter, I had trouble finding some, but how do you clean an old one?
By blowing air through it backwards, but find a new one.
All right.
Somebody has it.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much.
Tire Canada, somebody. So
Yeah, okay, thanks.
okay.
John?
Yes.
Yes, so I have a 77B. It's tuned right and everything, but I can't get it to go over 3,000 RPMs. Now, as far as the 175 CD carburetor, if I pull up on the piston, the oil-filled piston, and get nothing as far as a change in the engine, I can pull that thing out completely and it'll idle the same. What can I look at as my problem with that particular carburetor?
We're going back to the first set of instructions, and that is the PCV system, positive crankcase ventilation, and the ELC system, the evaporative loss control system. So there's a vent on the top of the carburetor at the upper right rear that goes over to the charcoal canister. And if you remove that and go out and drive the car, it should not make one iota of difference whether that line is connected or not. If it does make a difference, then there's something going on with the charcoal canister or the plumbing going to it, something. You can run with that line disconnected. It doesn't hurt anything to have it disconnected. The anti-run-on system won't work, but that's just a real simple. My mantra is that you do the simplest, easiest, cheapest thing first. So disconnect that vent line that goes over to the charcoal canister and just go out and run it and see if that makes a difference. But you do have the air cleaner on it, don't you, Steve?
Yes, and I have the original air cleaner, and it's a new filter. But previously, whenever I raised that piston, the engine would, if I can remember
Sure.
correctly, would either start to die, and eventually, and then die completely.
Yeah.
But now nothing happens at all.
Well,
I can pull it completely out, and the thing will idle, and you don't even know that there was anything in there.
that's pretty bizarre. That's why I want you to check that charcoal canister, the line that goes over to that, because if there's any kind of vacuum on the float bowl, boy, it'll just muck up the way the thing runs, and you can fight it for a long time.
So just pull that line off the charcoal canister,
No, pull it off the carburetor.
pull it off the
Pull it
carburetor.
horizontally off the back of the carburetor, and just go out and drive it and see if it makes one iota of difference. If it does, you're onto it. So you can always call me tomorrow anytime, and I'm happy to spend some more time with you on that too. So
Oh, okay. Thank you very much for all your help.
yeah, you're welcome. Bill Thornton, you got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, John. I've got a few questions, but the main one I wanted to ask, you were talking about tightening up the cylinder head with the
Yes.
pattern. I recently had my car compression checked. It's a 79 MGB, and one of the cylinders was lower than the rest, and it wasn't number 3, it was number 4. Everything was around 120, 125, and then number 4 was 93. And then the guy that was doing it for me, he's actually my cousin, he squirted some oil in the cylinder and checked it again, and it was up to 115.
Sure.
So if I go through the exercise of tightening, loosening and retightening all the cylinder head bolts, what effect will that have, if any, on the compression that I'm seeing if one cylinder?
It won't until you adjust the valves.
Okay. So it's in
adjusting
conjunction
the
with
valves.
adjusting the valves.
Sometimes
Yeah.
the valve begins to fail and it recedes into the cylinder head, valve recession. Almost everything in that valve train is any kind of wear that you come up with, wear on the rocker, wear on there's no wear on the push rod, wear on the lifter, wear on the cam. You end up with a greater gap between the rocker and the valve stem. But just you don't even have to torque the head. You can just bump the thing over until the number one valve is down. Bump. Oh, there it is. 1 and 3 are down. So you can go back and adjust number 8 and just see what it is. And if it's tightened up or all but tightened up, that's why it's down to 93.
Yeah.
But something else is wrong. Something else is wrong, and the valve is failing. So you know that eventually you're going to have to take care of it. So why did it change when you squirted the oil in there? The volume of the cylinder head is around 30 cc's, and on your car the dish in the top of the piston is another 20 cc's or so. So if you put a couple of squirts of oil in there, all of a sudden the combustion chamber is much less in volume than it was before, and that's one reason the pressure will come up. So if you want to use oil to see if the rings are good, then you've got to be very judicious and check all of them. So you'd start at number 1. You'd prime the pump so that a trigger doesn't give you half air and half oil. It gives you squirt it until the oil's coming out, and then give it 1 squirt of oil. How much does that increase it? However much that increases it, it should be consistent across the way. Some people say, well, the oil helps seal the rings. It does, but it also changes the capacity of the combustion chamber. So you're looking for consistency. Anyway, it's probably the number 4 that's just offhand. The inlet valves never fail because they're always being washed in an ice cold mixture of air fuel. It's the exhaust valve that fails, and they fail in lots of different ways. And one of them is to get drawn up into the head just a little bit. 15 thousandths isn't much, anyway, check that. And then you can always call me, and I'm happy to talk to you about it too.
Yeah, the conclusion was that the rings are failing. It's not the valve.
Not yet.
And that was news I didn't want to listen to.
No, but that's premature to decide that.
Yeah.
It may be.
Yeah, yeah.
It may be that
Understood.
that's what's going on, but you don't make that determination until you've torqued the head, adjusted the valves, take the time to do it. You don't have to torque the head, but that's wise. No point in torquing it if you got to take it back off again, tomorrow. But at least check the gaps on the 7 and 8 rockers.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're
Most
welcome.
appreciated. Thank you.
So I sped through that pretty fast. Oh, Ian, what's up?
Hey, John. Just two quick things for you. I don't want to hold you up. I know you want to get over to the chat. I was wondering on my 66B, I don't know when the last time it had a fuel filter was. It may have never had a fuel filter, which is
It never had a fuel filter.
yeah. So wondering what the best place is to put one. I've been considering just doing it in that gap where the hard line ends and the line goes to the carburetors and just putting it in
Yes.
there. Or
Yep.
okay.
So you can take that existing line that's all covered in that mesh, that steel mesh, if it's like that. Um, you can get a real long piece of hose, so it comes out and loops back around, and you put
I
the
saw an
filter over
example of
here.
that. Yeah.
Put in a see-through filter.
See through. Okay.
Well, no point in putting in a can in there. Well, I wonder how dirty it is.
Yeah.
And the see-through filters are cheap. Make sure you put the see-through filter in the direction that makes the most sense, and that is that the crap that gets caught on the filter gets caught on the outside diameter, and you can see how much crap is caught there. But yeah, all the earlier cars, it's really wise to put a filter in there. There's a filter with a screen in it ever so slightly less coarse than the one you have in your kitchen. I mean, it'll catch pieces of junk, but it's there's a lot of little tiny stuff that at this time is breaking loose all throughout the system, including inside in the pieces inside the rubber lines. Little pieces break off and get caught in the needle and seat and cause the carbs to overflow.
Yeah. I had the float bowls. I opened them back up in December, and they were just a bunch of crap, and I had to clean them
Yep.
all out. And
That's-
so I need to put a
Yep.
fuel filter in it.
Yep.
So that was number one. Number two, the 76B I got from my friend recently. Engine's got a little bit of a clatter to it while idling. Never hear it while the engine's kind of above.
How many
1500.
miles?
I don't know. It's probably got
A lot.
a lot.
Okay, so
I've been told it's a waste pin.
I just revised my article about do you have a tired engine? People say, "Oh, my engine's tired." It's like engines don't get tired. That's not a word you can use to define an engine. Engines are defined by 6 factors. I always said 5 until yesterday, literally. And that is, does it leak water? Okay. Does it use oil? What's the compression? What's the oil pressure? And what's the condition of the cam? Those are the 5 things. But you can also have piston slap. So the piston comes up, and as it's transitioning to its downward stroke, it rocks and it clack clack. And it'll sound like when it's bad, it'll sound like a diesel. I mean, it sits there and just clacks. And you bring it up above some RPM, 850, 900, 1050, something. It's gone. The noise is completely gone. That's piston slap. That's the pistons rocking in the bore, and that means that rings aren't going to do it for you. That when that time comes, you got to have it bored and put in the next size larger pistons.
Okay. Well, very interesting. Yeah, I had another guy tell me something about a waist pin. Do you know? Can you explain the waist pin to me?
Wrist pin.
The wrist pin. Sorry,
wrist pin.
pin.
That's in the piston when the piston's going up and down. It's rotating. But the last bad wrist pin, and if you want to be British, it's a gudgeon pin, Gudgeon. The gudgeon pin, the last bad one I saw was in a T-type, where the gudgeon pin clamping bolt hadn't been tightened. So I doubt it's that. So
Okay.
maybe other engines, but I'll put you onto what I call piston slap, and that's just excessive wear in the bore.
Gotcha. Well, John, thank you very much. Appreciate you clearing
Yep,
that up.
yep, you're very welcome. So, David Smith, you're up.
Hey, John, how are you? Good to see you.
Great.
Just two quick things that I want to verify that I heard you say tonight. One was, did you say foot to the floor when you're on choke?
Before you
When
pull
you're
the
starting
choke
on
out of the
choke?
dash, the choke does two things. The first third of the movement only increases the RPM. The
Yeah.
second two-thirds drops the jets. This is
Yeah.
on it. What year and model do you have?
73
Yeah.
HIF.
Okay. So the first third turns the cams because you got
Yeah.
HIFs. First third turns the cams, and the second two-thirds the cams the valves in the cam actually work. But if you put your foot to the floor and pull it out, then the cam doesn't have to push the throttle open. It's just so much easier to pull the choke out. And there's no substitute to flushing that whole system with oil or wiping it down with a lot of grease, just so that you got the little cam. I mean, that cam is so narrow, and it's got a screw on top of it. There's
Yeah.
a certain amount of friction there. So yeah, put your foot to the floor, pull the choke all the way out, let your foot off, and
Okay.
then start the car up.
Okay. Thank you. Second one quickly was 32 degrees, 3,000, 3,500, 4,000. Does it matter?
No, yes, you rev it up until you hit full mechanical advance. So as you're watching the timing mark and you're
Yeah.
reaching across the engine on your car, where they
Yeah.
put the timing marks at 11 o'clock, so real
Yeah.
people could time it themselves, and
Yeah.
you're watching that timing mark move, of the apparent timing mark move as you're going faster, 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 and then it stops moving even though you're going faster. That's
Okay.
full mechanical advance.
Okay.
And the
Okay.
distributor in your car has probably a 19-degree cam in the distributor, which means it advances 38 degrees on the crankshaft. So that thing starts off at, when you start the car, it's severely retarded, 6 degrees or so after top dead center. And as soon as it starts up, the cam advances the timing some. But more importantly on your car, the vacuum advance, it's critical that that's working because
Mhm.
that when that's working, it pulls the idle advance up to about 40 degrees before. It loves idler, just loves idler, but you can't accelerate from there because it'll start to spark knock. So as soon as you put your foot down, you lose the manifold vacuum, and then it
Mhm.
reverts to just operating by mechanical.
Okay. Okay. Last question then. Sorry, everybody, but just um, my car, I've got a VP12 cam in it. Got a little bit of work on the
Oh,
engine.
well, no, wait.
Okay.
Wait.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So it took me, I got my VP12 cam from Forrest Johnson, who took over my business, and he had it in his MGA and gave up. Took
Yeah.
it out. It just too much, and it took me a long time to dial that thing in. Your idle, just get used to having an idle up around 1100.
Yep.
You have to. You just have to.
Yep. Yep.
And there's something on my I've got it my MGA. I mean, same engine, right? But um, boy, I pull the choke out, start it, and I can put that choke right back in, and it runs fine. I don't understand why I don't have to have. I don't understand why I don't have to have the choke out longer. But there's something about the mixture.
Yeah.
But working with that, and also on that VP12 cam, I think Anton used to sent that instruction sheet out with it, and the inlet and exhaust clearances are like 18 and 20 or something. It's
Yeah. They're very high.
considerably different than the 13,000's original.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So with that cam then, just a quick question then. I find that around like 3,500, it's got a lot of pull. It seems to die out somewhere, I don't know, between 4 and 45. I think it
oh
should be
no,
pulling
no,
more.
no,
So
no.
what?
Oh God, no. I
what
can run my car right up to 100 miles an hour.
yeah. just in terms of pull, so where would I look for what that issue might be? I mean, I could take this offline too and give you a buzz someday.
Yeah, give me a call, but it's just
Okay.
it's either not breathing correctly. You got the original air cleaners on it.
No, I got I think I got Can-Am.
Well, those are supposed to be better. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you have an oxygen sensor on your car, if you take all the time to have a bung welded into your front exhaust pipe, and you can see what the oxygen is, you immediately know what the deal is with the mixture.
Yeah.
But I'd go visit the timing, because timing is critical, critical. And I would get rid of that original 73 distributor, because that's an emissions distributor that goes with the original 252 cam, and get a distributor that is made for your cam. And you can get people talk, oh, I get a 25D distributor, I get a 45D distributor. There's a 23D distributor that doesn't use a vacuum advance. So you can get out of that altogether, and talk to either Medinsky or Schlemmer and tell them that because otherwise you gotta port the rear carburetor. Medinsky can do that. He can put a little tit on the rear carburetor so you can use ported vacuum. But you can run it without vacuum too.
Okay. I do have a 25D, and I did get Slemmer to run it to do it for me. So, but anyway, just for everybody else, I'll give you a call offline here. But
Okay.
appreciate the day. This was great. Thank you very
Right.
much.
Hey, you're very welcome.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Gerard, you're up next.
Hey, John, how are you?
Hey, great.
Good. I got just a couple of questions since we're talking about timing marks. Two things. Like I've been, getting to doing more with the timing gun, and when it comes to that mark, the timing mark that moves around, when it's erratic, what does that mean? If like when you're shining the timing light on it
At idle or at higher speed?
at idle.
At idle, it means that the distributor's jumping around, and
So I have a Pertronix in a 25D. I have a 79 MGB with HIFs that was converted. So it's running a Pertronix. And it was like I couldn't understand why that mark was moving so much. If I disconnect the vacuum, the car basically tries to stall.
The vacuum is critical on your car. Critical that it's working correctly. But it won't stall if you up at 3,000 RPM, because when it's running at that kind of speed on the expressway, for instance, you got your foot down, you don't have any vacuum, you don't have any manifold vacuum, and it's just running on mechanical. So when you're at low speed, the camshaft is the cam and the distributor drive gear. Sometimes there's some bounce in there, but you just time it up at high speed, and it'll be relatively steady up there.
Okay. All right. And one other question. It's like I started doing some work with a vacuum gauge. Is there like a lot more things that you could diagnose with a vacuum gauge in terms of how the car is operating?
Yeah, but you're going to have to open a 1960s tech book about how to tell if you got a bad valve or a bad. There's all kinds of stuff that they used to use those a lot. I've never used one, so I'm ignorant of what it all tells you, except that when the car's idling, the idling and running, idling really well, you should have at least 18 inches of vacuum there.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. George from Phoenix.
There you are. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about valve adjustment. I've seen a lot of cars that are in, very nice condition and everything. Really, really nice cars. And you listen to them idle, you really don't hear the chatter on the valves, on the adjustment. I have diligently set my valves at 15 and I can still hear them chatter quite a bit.
Tighten
And
them up to, just tighten them up to 13. If it drives you bonkers, tighten it up to 13. Just do it.
won't bother it then.
No. So there's a couple of other things you can do when you're adjusting valves like that. When in my step there where I said, the valve cover's off and you restart the engine and you watch all the valves working and everything, you can take a 10 thousandths feeler and slip it between each of the rockers and valve stems, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and listen for the change. And if you have a noisy valve, you may not even realize it's a noisy valve, but you put that feeler gauge in number 3, for instance, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, it just got quieter. That lets you know that there's something going on at number 3. What's going on? Well, easiest is you missed on the valve adjustment, or if that doesn't do it, then it's the cam and lifter, which is of course a lot bigger problem.
Wow.
So,
yeah, I've done that, and they all seem to quiet down evenly across. So
yeah.
I think bringing them down to 13 that would probably.
Well, the difference between 15 and 13 is the difference between a human hair, and also how tight is your drag on your feeler gauge when you're pulling it out of there. I've just shown a guy last week in the shop how to adjust valves, and he goes, "Oh, that's pretty tight." I said, "Well, it's consistent. All of them feel the same. That's what you're after." I can't believe that the thickness of a human hair is going to make that difference, that amount of difference in how the car performs, but it does make a difference in noise. I go back to the story about this guy that called me in 1981. He saw an article that I'd written. He called me up and he says, "I bought my TC new." He bought his TC new. Hang on just a second. And he said, "It drives me absolutely crazy to drive it." He said, "The racket from the valve train was horrible." And he said, "It just drives me crazy. I can't drive it." I said, "What do you get the valve set to?" And he says, 19. I said, "Well, set them at 15. He said, "Yeah, but that little brass plaque on the valve cover says set them at 19. I said, "Dude, you called me. I'm telling you what to do." And I said, "Set them at 15. He called me back a couple days later and said, "Oh my God, I love my car." Like, you've owned it since 1949. He bought it, 1950. He bought it new. It had 30 years. Anyway, just tighten it up a little bit, but be consistent.
All right, John, thanks. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. So, Greg Fisher.
Yeah, just a real quick question, John. You talk about valve adjustments, and I've done it a couple times. I don't drive the car a lot. It's been 2 years I've been running now, since I got it rebuilt. 5,000 miles. I've adjusted the valves maybe 2-3 times. How often should you do it?
That's almost too much. Yeah. Once every 5,000-6,000 miles. I mean, really, I got to hit my mute all button. I'm sorry, just a second. Got some background noise here. Anyway, I'm back to you, Greg. Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was, related to duration because the car sits. It isn't driven a lot. A couple times a week I drive it and put 20, 30 miles on it and then bring it home and that's it.
No. So just once every 5,000-6,000 miles, geez, that ought to be enough. There's a lot of them out there that no one's quite too sure how long ago it was that the valves were adjusted, So, yep. All right, so we've run through it. Do I have any more questions about the subject tonight, which is, I said spring tune-up, but Steve Olson, you're up.
Yeah, another thing that makes the valve train noisy is when we put those lovely aluminum rocker covers on there. They make 10 times as loud as if you use the standard original valve cover.
That is a fact. So if you look on the inside of the MGB, the MGA, and even the midget ones, there's a little panel on the inside that's got it's another piece of metal that's in there, and packed in there is some, I don't know, some kind of cloth, I don't know, something or other to get rid of the drumming, the drumming that you get, but you get the aluminum valve. And then some of the aluminum valve covers sit just a little wrong. And when the rocker moves, it nicks the inside of the, because you take the valve cover off and you look and you go, oh, look, it's been hitting here, So you can grind that away a little bit, that at least it won't make that kind of noise. But yeah, thank you, Steve. Aluminum valve covers, they're cool, they look nice, but if rocker noise bothers you, well, you've made the wrong choice. Yeah. Yep. Thank you. Okay, Bill Thornton, you're back.
Yep, I got another question. Look at me, eh? 2 questions in one night. Normally I wait weeks and weeks and weeks and never have one, and like a bus to come along at once. It's just a quick one, really. You talked about the thermostats and the different temperatures earlier. Can you recommend what you would use in South Carolina? My car was a California car.
180.
180. Thank you.
Yep. And always make sure when you buy the thermostat, it comes as just a solid disc, right? I mean, it's got the valve in the middle, right? But it's a disc. And there's no way for the air to vent out of the system. So you must, anytime you get a new thermostat, you must drill an 1/8 inch hole out on the edge so that when you're filling it, the air that's inside the air that's inside the engine can get up above. I had a guy from Atlanta with a TF called me, goes, what is going on? And he put a brand new thermostat in his TF, filled up the radiator, so the radiator's up to here, but the engine had compressed all the air on the top, so the engine didn't have enough water in it, coolant. And he got about a mile down the road when the thing grossly overheated and it's boiling and spewing steam and everything everywhere. And he says, what did I do wrong? I said, did you put the 1/8 inch hole in there? And he goes, what 1/8 inch hole? So anyway, that's important.
That should be an instruction. I mean, my car never, ever, ever gets warm. It barely moves off the little blue.
Well, now that's,
thermostat. Yeah.
We don't know what the temperature is. We only know that the indication, the gauge isn't moving. So there's no way to tell for sure unless you have a handheld infrared pyrometer that you can shoot at it and see what it is. But you want it to be running around 200 for sure.
Okay. I've got an infrared thermometer. I can use that to check it out. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hey, Bob and Gloria.
How you doing?
Pretty good.
Good. On adjusting the lifters, I do mine once a year, but that's about 15,000 miles. And usually they're not out of adjustment, but
your use is different than almost anyone else's here. So
yeah. And the other thing, as far as the filling up the cooling system, I have a reverse flush kit, and it's right before on the passenger side of the heater core, and I put it in there. It's a T-fitting, and take the cap off of it when I'm filling it up, and when the water comes all the way up or antifreeze comes up to that cap, then I tighten it up, and I seldom have any air. I don't have to mess with it. So, because I never think to drill that little 1/8 inch hole. I just put a thermostat in and it's fine. But that reverse, plus the reverse flush kit, if you want to flush out your system, it really works nicely.
Yes. Yep. Appreciate that. Okay. So we're all set here. Oliver Rokoff.
Yes. Hi. Thank you, John, for taking my question real quick. Yeah, I've got a 66 Sprite, and I'm in Oregon. We've got kind of moist mornings, and I drive in the morning. I'm getting a little bit of white smoke out the tailpipe that seems to clear up. After about 10, 15 minutes of driving, it clears up. But I notice it most from a stop.
Okay, so it might be If it's white, it might be smoke and it might be steam. So if it's steam, I mean, when you're burning gasoline, you're getting CO2 and water, right? So there's always a certain amount of steam, but usually the exhaust system is so hot that the steam, I mean, you don't even see the steam back there. The worst kind of white smoke to get is the kind that when you have a servo on your brakes and it's sucking brake fluid from your servo into your intake manifold, because that'll suck all the fluid out of your brake system in no time at all. Been there, then you don't have any brakes. But the other thing that you might just do is buy another diaphragm for your Smith's PCV valve, that sits between the carburetors on the intake manifold. That's if that diaphragm is wonky, then you can get oil going through there when it shouldn't. There are two types of PCV valves with two different types of diaphragms. You can't buy the earlier diaphragm, as far as I know. So you end up having to buy a whole new PCV valve if yours is too early. And it depends on whether yours has got the clip with a coil in the middle of it, or if it's just a depression that holds the top lid on. You can send me a picture of yours tomorrow. I'll tell you some more about it. But you might just change that as a matter of course.
Okay. Yes, I'll look into that one. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
If you have oil consumption, you losing any oil?
I haven't really noticed a lot of oil consumption. No, yeah.
Okay. All right. So it might be just steam or something. So
yeah, Oliver, have you how often do you drive the car?
A couple 3 days a week.
Back to back?
Yeah, kind of intermittently. Yeah.
Okay. I just know, I mean, if you let a car sit for a long period of time, it can take a really long time to get all the steam out the first time. So just to especially, and this was in a more moderate, a little bit less humid climate, but yeah, just maybe, if you drive it 2 days in a row, that shouldn't be it shouldn't be extreme. So yeah, just a thought there.
So there's a corollary to that, and some people say when they have their cars stored during the winter months, they say, "So I go out and you start it up and let it run for 20 minutes in the garage, and all that happens is all that water from the combustion doesn't get hot enough to get turned into steam and sits in the bottom of the muffler and rusts the muffler out." So when you go out to drive the car, you want to make, and people who say, "Oh, I only drive my car 3 minutes to work." Okay, their exhaust systems will end up not filling with water, but they get a lot of moisture in there. So anyway, yes, Kurt, thank you very much.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Kurt.
Okay, I think we're down probably to having 20 minutes left for the chat section. So let me try to, I have, because of my screen, I have a real hard time reading all the chat, but I'm going to do the very best I can here. And I end up missing stuff, and I apologize. Just a minute here. We're going up here. All right. Judd says, around Lake Adger, I applied brakes, or should I say attempted to apply brakes. I'd lost 90% of my pedal. At the very bottom, I still had some braking, but not enough to feel good about it. I pulled into this is a long story. I pulled into the first Stop and Rob I saw. The reservoir was empty. Fortunately, I had a jug of .3 in the boot, filled it, and yippee, I had pedal again. Now, safely home, I need to start finding out where the fluid leaked to. Where should I start? So, Judd, you're on, right? Judd's always on. I'm waiting for Judd to come up. So, because I need to know what model Judd is driving here. But if it's a brake fluid loss, it's either going out the rear brakes, out the front brakes, out of a fitting, or out of the master cylinder. So if you sit in the garage and pump it, you ought to be able to find it someplace. Now, if it was an MGB and you hadn't changed the pads in 18 years, is there a chance that the pads had moved out so much towards the rotor that it reduced the amount of fluid in the brake master cylinder? It's not designed to work that way. There's plenty of fluid in there to account for all wear, but almost always just a physical examination will let you know. And on the inside of the wheel, if it's leaking on the wheel, you'll get these lines that come out from the center where the fluid drips and then gets flung out at speed. And so the inside of the wheel is a real good place to look at too. So
Hey, John, it was Judd's MGA that he was driving
yeah,
at the time, yeah, but not sure what year it is, but about 50, 51, something like that. So I know it was an MGA.
yeah, yep.
We were all baffled as to where the fluid had
Yeah, well, usually if you look at the inside of the wheel, you can tell, and if it's leaking out the master cylinder, it usually is leaked on the floor enough that even though the carpet may sop it up, you touch the floor in there and it's gooey or it gets around on the firewall. So
that was something you just mentioned about having all the fluid sucked out through the servo. Maybe I don't know MGAs, so
no, that's not the case here.
Okay,
he hasn't got power brakes. So
okay, all right, thanks.
Yeah, okay. Tony Rosello, so TF 1500. What can I do to have my idle maintain the correct RPM when the engine temp gets to boiling, gets to 100 centigrade? When I get to that temperature, the idle's struggling to stay at 1,000 RPM. So the cheap way is, of course, you blip the throttle. Wants to shut down like it's starving for gas. One note, I have a street cam from Crane in the engine. Well, so it isn't going to run below 1,000 RPM anyway, probably. Are you still on, Tony?
Yes, I am, John.
Okay, all right. So anytime you get you have any idea what the duration is on that cam?
I'm sorry, I don't know off the top of my
Okay.
head, but I know I have to set the valves at 18 and right. So it's that kind of a street cam.
So it may be that you got to have it up around 1,000 to idle smoothly anyway. It's really tough when you're driving, between ambient temperatures and you get it up that high. It's just the nature of the beast that you've got to blip the throttle every now and it's not in a modern car that corrects for itself for the temperature. As long as the mixture's correct, then
Right.
that's as good as you can do. So
Okay, so maybe I should set the idle a little higher than
yeah, sure.
around 11, 12.
Just not so high that someone leans over and says, "Cool car, what's the matter with it?" Yeah, but my MGA is I idle that around 1,100. I just have to, so I've got a real aggressive cam in there. So
Okay, I'll jack up the idle a little bit.
Yeah.
Thank you.
all right. So so I got Judd. I took Judd there. Chip Eurico, could you send us a reminder when a yearly contribution might be due? Today, right now. Sorry. So anyway, I could, but I don't want to sound too much like in NPR. But as Marty said, you can go on to PayPal and you can set up any kind of payment plan that you might want. Yep. And Pete from New Zealand, apologies for late login, but that's all right. You're on now. Let's see, we're looking down here. David Smith, foot to the floor when starting on choke. We've already answered that. DQ. So oil change in the spring, even if you did an oil change in the fall before it was stored? No. I'm not asking you to change the oil twice, unless it's become contaminated with gasoline. If you can smell gasoline in the oil, that means that when it's idling, it's going to draw those gasoline fumes up in the engine and combust them, and you're going to end up adjusting the carburetors too lean to account for this extra gasoline that's getting into it. So no, change the oil once a season when you store it, so it's stored with fresh oil, and then at 3,000 mile increments after that. Let's see. Mike Baldwin says he loves NGK plugs. Hey, that's great. On installing heads, do you recommend rounding the opening edges of the holes so the head gasket seats better? Yes, absolutely. I would almost tell you that that chamfering all 11 holes through which the 3/8 studs pass on the MGB engine. I'd tell you I'm the one who invented that, discovered that, not invented, discovered that that's the way out of cracking the heads and having them leak on the right-hand side of the head. Tom Gunderson says if I were to change the fuel tank on my 57 MGA, what's a good one to get? And I don't have an answer for that. I don't know. All the new tanks don't have baffles, I guess. There were baffles in the tanks to keep the noise of the gasoline from being offensive, and also to protect the sending unit that's a lot of mass to have sloshing around back there. But I think I've seen stainless steel tanks now, and we used to, every now and then when we bought a new tank back in the day, it'd be a bad one. The weld would be bad, and of course you don't find it out until it's on the car. But I can't say. But some other people here have got some information. Mike Baldwin, I'm not sure. David Smith, what should the target RPM be when the mechanical advance is in? So it's max. You're watching the weights, you're watching the mechanical advance work, and once it's maxed out, that's it. Doesn't matter if it happens at 2,000 or 5,000. You're just going for max. Jim Nunzoff, my Weber at a stoplight starts out 1,100 RPM. My RPMs go lower and lower and lower while I wait at the light. Why is this happening? Number one, you got your foot on the clutch. Should never have your foot on the clutch.
Never.
Okay, good. All right. And it's adjusted too rich. That's just offhand. It's just too rich. That's almost all Weber carburetors are installed backwards so that the throttle cable enters at the rear of the carburetor towards the rear of the car. And of course, when you do that, you can't get to the adjuster screws very easily at all. Oh my gosh, they're horrible. I would lean it out. And which way you got to turn your trim screw on the carburetor, I can't tell you. You got to get into your own car and turn that trim screw yourself. And it's a real bugger to reach there.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so Mark Webb says Northwest Imports says the 1980 MGB air filter, and I'm sure, Gary, they'll send it to Canada. Mr. McFarland says ran into a gas pump with 15% ethanol and warning signs stating not to use it on 1991 or older cars. Imagine that. Imagine that, like the warning label you get on a beer and cigarettes. But how nice, how nice. So there's Tony Wisely's got some information here about octane, and this is all in the chat section. If you're looking for the better kind of gasoline to use, you can always buy 93 gasoline, but that's a waste of money if you're unless excuse me, it's a waste of money unless you're having dieseling problems or anything. Some of the cars, of course, if you run high compression 10-to-1 or something, yeah, you want to use the high octane. But you want to use gasoline that hasn't got the ethanol in it if you can find it. I'm not suggesting that you drive 38 miles out of the way to buy gasoline. So Why would an MG driver want 100 octane? Okay, so anyway, that is correct. 100 octane is really high unless he's got something like 10-to-1 compression. Sean Janelle, I will send a donation, John, mailing address to, just in case. Marty's got that in there. Thank you very much. Thank you, Marty. John Lind, how can I determine what kind of distributor is in my car and whether it requires ported or manifold vacuum? We acquired another 76 midget with points and condenser from an earlier car, no doubt. Distributor vacuum device is flat with a vacuum port behind the device, not going out to the side. So, John Lind, send me pictures of your distributor. There is a distributor number on the distributor if you take it out of the car, and there's a distributor number on it. But if you just take a picture and send it to my cell phone, I'd be more than happy, and then follow it up with a phone call. I'd be happy to help you out.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You are welcome. So here we go. Joe Mick. Never torque the head down. What does it get torqued to? And the valve adjustment is done cold or warm. On an MGB, I torque it down to 55 pounds, or really get it tight. And of course, you're only doing one stud at a time. No, you never ever have more than one stud loose at a time. So that, and I usually torque it when it's hot. I usually do, and I torque it with oil. And the valve adjustment, I always do the valve adjustment hot. Now, the difference between hot and cold on the valve adjustment is, imagine the push rod. The push rod is a foot long. And imagine that the push rod goes through a temperature change of 0 to 100 Celsius. Okay, it's going to grow in length by 1/10,000th of an inch over that 100 degrees. So there's no difference when you're looking for a clearance of 15 thousandths. It's not 15 in 1/10,000th or 15 and not. But since the engine runs when it's hot, doesn't run when it's cold, it runs when it's hot. That's where you want it running well. I always adjust the valves hot just to make sure that everything is consistent when it's hot. That's me.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Bob says, timing at 32 degrees. I just checked and reset my 1980 MGB at 10 degrees. Well, when do you set it at 10 degrees? Do you set it at idle, with a vacuum connected, disconnected? So I'm talking about all of our cars run the best when you've timed it at 32 degrees, vacuum disconnected, full mechanical advance.
John, and thank you. It was at idle.
Yeah.
And I did have the vacuum disconnected. I put a little bolt in the vacuum hose and it was dead nuts on. I accelerated, and of course the timing was advanced, so maybe we're talking the same thing.
Well, when it's the problem is that there's springs in the distributor, right? And those springs are, you got a 1980, so those springs are, help me do the math, 46 years old, right? They've been working there for a long time. And how far advanced are they at idle? Are they a little advanced, a lot advanced? Have you almost used all that advance up? Has it not even started? You don't know. But you do know, I know that when you're running down the road, that's where you want it to be. And that's where the engine's got to put out the most power, is at high speed. And so that's why I use that figure of 32 degrees. And then whatever it shows up at, and it'll be somewhere around 10, 15 degrees. It'll be close. But the difference between when we checked a 67 MGB one time, he came for a tuning for speed class. We looked at the timing before we took it apart. It was 27 degrees before top dead center. And so we set it at 32, full mechanical advance, vacuum disconnected. The next day we put it on the dynamometer, and we got 62 horsepower at the rear wheels, We set the timing back to 27, where he'd had it before. We lost 5 horsepower at the rear wheels. So right at that sweet spot, it's critical. So anyway, that's why I always set it up there.
Thank you very much, John.
Yeah.
The other question, John, is what is idle? 1100, 900, 800?
Well, that's it. That.
Yeah,
That's
so that's
it.
why you always do it at the top end.
They usually had, when the cars were brand new and you could trust the advance. It was like 15 for years, 15 before 1500 RPM vacuum disconnected. And then when you hook the vacuum up, oh my gosh, it pulls it up to like 40 degrees before. I mean, it loves idle up there. Oh my gosh, it runs great, but it won't accelerate from there. It won't accelerate from 40 unless you lose the vacuum, and that's why it's manifold vacuum.
It falls through.
Okay, so I'm going to just a moment here. I'm going to mute all just so I got that. All right. So I'm coming back down here. Marty's got some stuff. Doug Miller, 1980 MGB, 128,000 miles, rebuild engine at 124. Gearbox is described as pristine, Weber carb, no emissions, runs great. I tend to keep it around 3,500 RPMs, 60 to 70 miles an hour on the freeway. Just how fast can I press on? So, Doug, it depends on how well that engine is balanced. The racers can take them up to 7,500 RPM. So you'd be doing what? 140. So you can go faster. You can go faster. You can run it at 4,500 RPM all day long. You can run at 90, no problem. So Brian Barkley, love the stories. Wish I could listen. I could listen all night. Yeah, well, we haven't gotten all night one set up yet. So
he was a first timer, so that was nice to have
all
him.
right. Okay. All right. Here we go. John Bocher, backup lights do not work on my 69B. Okay. So he goes to the simplest, easiest, cheapest stuff first. So you make sure that the lamps are plugged in, because stuff's rattling around in the trunk, the plugs get pulled out. Okay, so then you can look at the lamps or use a 12-volt test light and check it. Ignition on, in reverse, that circuit, white with brown, should be hot. If it's not, which it probably won't be, it's the reverse light switch, which is located above the cross member on the gearbox on the right-hand side. You can get to it really easily. Get a big pair of pliers. It's a 2.0 metric thread. So all you have to do is just barely unscrew the reverse light switch just a tiny little bit. It'll spin out by hand. You can see it. You can reach it. So it's either the wiring, the bulbs. Excuse me. It's either the plugs, the bulbs. It could always be disconnected. You might the white with brown wire might be disconnected underneath the bonnet, where the gearbox loom hooks into the rear loom. I mean, it could be a lot of things, but it's probably the switch. That's the thing that fails the most. So
the question is,
yeah,
from the bottom or from the top do you reach it?
Bottom. You got to be underneath the car.
Okay, that's what I needed, the clarification.
You can jack it up on the right-hand side, put a piece of 2x4 on your trolley jack, jack, put a jack stand front and rear,
I understand.
Yep. Okay. All right.
Thanks.
Hey, John, before you go to all that, I just had the same problem, one of my backup lights, and it was the tab. I pulled out the bucket and I moved the tab. Must have gotten
the rivet was getting loose.
The rivet was getting loose, and I moved it around. Now I have backup. I just bought a couple of used buckets from Team Triumph, but that's it. Yeah, but that's what it was. It was the tab. Okay. We used the test light and everything. It worked until you plugged in the wire. So it was that simple.
Easy.
Okay.
Dan Andrews, have you often seen MGB rocker number 1 look like the pad is only 2/3 on the valve? Yes, Yes. So, these are production cars. It really doesn't make any difference if the rocker's sitting right square on the valve stem or not, apparently, because lots of them are off. But the valve stem comes up and the rocker should be pressing down on it. But it's not, let me get my angle right, but it's not unusual to have it off on the side one way or the other. You can correct for that by using the washers around the shaft to move stuff around, but it doesn't really seem to make a lot of difference. But it's if you're setting up for high speed running and you want to make sure everything is just right, you want to make sure that each one of those rockers is sitting on top. If you got a bunch of rockers, you can try, but oh my gosh, every time you do this, you gotta pull the rocker shaft apart. Oh my gosh. But yes, Ben, that I understand what you're talking about.
Okay, thanks, John.
Yeah. Sean, thanks so much. How do I create oil pressure before starting the engine for the first time? This is so important that you take all 4 plugs out, hit the starter motor, and wait for oil pressure. Okay. So you do that 20 seconds, no oil pressure. MGB engine, just say. You do it again. Do it again. 20 seconds each time. You're not getting any oil pressure. You go, geez. Whoa. So you take the fitting off the back of the block, out of which the oil comes as it goes into the cooler or into the oil filter, and you glug oil down that great big, it's a 1/2 inch PSP fitting at the back of the block, and that's where all the unfiltered oil comes out of the oil pump. You squirt oil down there, and then you push the car backwards, move the engine backwards, so it screws oil back down through the oil pump. Now you try it again. Still no pressure. Sump comes off because you've done something wrong with the oil pump, which is why you always use gasket goo between the sump and the gasket, but grease between the gasket and the block. So when you have to take the sump back off again, doesn't matter if you're a professional or not. I took a call a couple of months ago from a guy who builds lots of engines. He goes, I know, I'm going crazy. I can't figure it out. And I said, sounds like you didn't tighten up the pump. I know I used the right gasket. So he ended up having to take the sump back off. But since he put grease on it, it came right off, went right back on. All right. So I've got Judd here again.
Sorry, John, a follow-up question about that.
Yeah.
Do you, and I apologize, I had a little confusion, didn't get here on time earlier, but do you recommend like squirting oil into the cylinder or anything like that also, just to reduce that initial startup damage?
I only did that when I was building an engine for show, and we'd start it up on the bench, and I put a couple squirts of oil in every cylinder, and then when I started it up, I got this massive, dense, smoky cloud. And then you're up on the bench. Of course, you're only run it for 90 or 20 seconds, just enough to make sure, you get oil pressure first and we'd start it up. But when you rev it way up and then let off on the throttle, you get fire, literally flames that shoot out of the exhaust manifold. So we'd have 20 guys there who've been waiting for a day and a half or almost 2 full days for this engine to start. And it's up on the bench, and you start it up in this cloud of smoke, and then you're the bang, bang as this thing's, decelerating in big flashes of flame. Yeah. My engine builder, the old way was when you're, putting the piston back in the bore, you dip the whole piston in oil. He goes, I don't do that anymore. I don't think it's good. I think it should. I think it should run in there dry. So everybody's got their own opinion on that. So it's not necessary to put oil in the piston. If it makes you feel better, do it.
Thank you very much.
All right, next one up, DQ, 1980 MGB turn signals work intermittently. So DQ, are you still on?
I am, sir. Yes.
Okay. So does that mean the left works intermittently, the right, or both of them work intermittently?
Both.
Okay, that's the hazard light switch. So the hazard light, I mean, armchair analysis, right? On a Zoom session. So the rocker switch, the hazard switch, has to be all the way off to turn the turn signals on, and that's the weakest point in the whole system. So rock the switch on and then back off again. On the earlier cars, you get your finger nice and stiff, and you jam, jam, jam. Keep rocking the thing off, but those newer switches, 77 through 80, you can't be quite so violent with them, or they'll stop working altogether. If yours does stop working altogether, and it is the hazard light switch, you can pull the ganged plug off the back, 6 wires on it. There's 2 greens there, no tracers. There's a black band around one of the greens, but you can take a paper clip and just make a little U-shaped connection and jam it in there, put some tape around there, and you don't even have to have the hazard light operational, and the turn signals will work. So,
okay, thanks. It would have nothing to do with acceleration, would it?
No, no.
Because for some reason, it seems like
well, yeah, because you're disturbing, you're disturbing the switch. I mean, it's like, you turn left, turn right. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of.
Okay, I'll check that. Thank you.
To switch. Yep.
Hey, John Gary here.
Yeah.
I've got a 1980 where I had some problems with my hazard switch a few years ago. You could take it apart and put it back together and clean the insides.
If you're very, very careful, yes. Yes.
I was.
Yep. Yep. Okay.
John.
Yes.
Interrupt. You're talking about oil, getting oil pressure on warm up or on startup. And do you recommend any particular kind of break-in oil? Or I use VR1 normally, 2050.
I think that's okay, but there is break-in oil. We used to use break-in oil when we bought Brad Penn oil. And that had like 5 times as much ZDDP in it, because when you start the car up, right at startup,
yeah,
I always have the valve set about 30. That's me. Have the valve set at 30. Somebody argued with me about that one time. Oh God, no, don't do that. But I do, so that everything is nice and loose and everything twirls. So you set them at 30 and just set the idle up to 2000 RPM and let it run for 20 or 30 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
At the end of that, whatever's going to happen has happened, and you can keep the break-in oil in there for the remainder of the next 500 miles, or take it out, whatever. But no, that VR1's just fine.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Tom Gunnarsson says, if I'm going to change my fuel tank, what should I get? But we already answered that. And Tony Wisely says, Nye-turn steel gas tanks. So anyway, that's an option. That's certainly an option. So Ben Andrews says John recommends Scarborough Fair for MGAs. Yes. Yep. All their stuff, as a rule, the fit is better, the quality is better than any of the other people. It might be the same, but if there's a chance that it might be a little bit better, it is. So here we've got Peter Welsh in Toronto. Is there a trick or hack to seeing the timing marks on a 1970 MGB? Sorry. Sorry. Oh my gosh. You got 4 marks on the bottom, 4 marks on the bottom. The engine's going in a clockwise direction. So it's 15, 10, 5, and 0. There's no 32 here. So you got to use the dial back timing light. Find some whiteout. I don't know why would anyone still be making whiteout, but I guess they do. Or a paint pencil, and highlight the mark on the pulley distinctly and the marks, and it's a 2-person operation to get the timing done. Somebody's lying on their belly like a snake, probably you, and then you're yelling up to your partner who's got his hand on the throttle, who's terrified he's going to blow the engine up. Faster, 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 and you're watching that timing mark. So anyway, that's there is no simple way of doing that. So, user, love your cat. It seems to love you too. John, I have a 57A and need a speedometer or reliable repair. There are 2 places that I know of right now off the top, 3 places. British Speedo, something like that in New York State. There's MoMA, M-O-M-A in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And there's Morris, who's the MO from MoMA, at West Valley Speedo, someplace in California. But the last I heard, he was in the hospital. So anyway, those are 3 places. Get your Speedo redone. But before you do that, make sure that it's correct for your car, and that is that the odometer works correctly. Paul, are you still on?
Yeah, I'm still here, John.
Okay, so if you can drive your car, forget the speedo, but if you can go out and drive it, go out and drive it on the expressway for 10 miles or 20 miles and just make sure that, yes, it's clocked that off, because if it hasn't, if it's got a different reading on the odometer, they'll make the speedometer match the odometer, which is already wrong. So
it used to work, and all of a sudden it stopped working, and I replaced it with one of the guys from the club with their speedo. It worked fine, so definitely the speedo didn't work, and I don't know who to send it to.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Easy. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And we're down to Brian Dawkins. For the fellow with the dropping idle Weber, check your timing too. This is a very similar situation for me. So just in that timing is critical. Paul Masson says, if I have a choice between non-ethanol and 94 octane, which do I choose? P.S. I have a high compression engine and it tends to ping. I go with a 94. Go with the 94. But the pinging also, Pete, can be because your timing is too advanced. That it can be that. So, and here we got Brad Schwartz that says you can use a product like Carb Defender from Driven Racing Oil. So, Driven Racing Oil is a good firm, Driven, Driven. It's a good firm. They sell all kinds of oil and oil enhancement stuff. Bob Howell, is a diagnostic tool bundle available for positive ground of vehicles? You don't need them. You don't need it. You just hook everything up backwards. That's all. Positive to positive, negative to negative. Mr. Howell, it's as easy as that. So dual meter, timing light, all that kind of stuff. Voltmeters, you just hook it up the other way. And let's see, we got Dean Hickenlooper, MGC Master Cylinder Rebuild. Oh, 120 PSI didn't pop that out. So the next thing that you do is put a grease circ in there and put your grease gun on it, because you can get more than 120 PSI with a grease circ. Or you can bail on the project, send it to White Post Restorations, 1 White Post Drive, White Post, Virginia. Don't know what the zip is, 22 something probably. Anyway, White Post, Virginia, and $350 later or so, don't quote me on the price, they'll send you back one that's in great condition. But you can always put that grease gun on there. That'll build more pressure. And with air, that if it breaks loose, all of a sudden it'll take off with a grease gun. With a grease gun, usually you don't have a problem with sending the piston halfway across the shop.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, absolutely. What else we have here? We got that's it.
John?
Yes, sir.
I'm
Alan,
wondering if you can put out a request for anybody that might have a car for sale that I could talk to.
sure. So, Alan's gonna send me an email tonight or tomorrow or text me. And if anyone's, what kind of car are you looking for, Alan?
Oh, an MGB, wire wheels, maybe red or green. Good running car.
Where are you located?
I haven't really. I've looked at Facebook in Hemmings.
Where are you located, Alan?
Laguna Niguel. That's between San Diego and Los Angeles,
Okay.
California.
Okay. So if anyone here's got something that they want to send along, any hints to Alan, send them to me. And Alan, you can get in touch with me and I'll pass the information along. So I always tell everyone who's looking for a car, it's like buying a house. Look at same set of rules. Look at 6 before you buy one. Buy the one you want. If you want a green one with chrome bumpers, wire wheels, don't buy a red one and plan to paint it later. Avoid rust. Rust is your greatest enemy. Haste makes waste. Take your time. Have it checked out before you buy it. Doesn't matter who's selling it, what you think yourself. Just have it checked out by somebody else. And no, what's the other one? Just a minute. There's 6 rules. Buy the most expensive one you possibly can because it's cheaper in the long run. So,
Right.
And
I appreciate that, John, very much. Thank you for that.
the places to look include Facebook Marketplace, Hemmings.com, Bring a Trailer, the mgexperience.net. There's even a UK-based website, mgcars.org.uk. Sounds like a UK site, but it's got a lot of American stuff on it. And then your local car clubs, that's what I mentioned earlier. So there's all car clubs everywhere, British car clubs and
eBay.
I forgot about eBay. Yep. But
Craigslist.
National clubs.
Craigslist. Really, people still use that. So
Not much, but it still exists.
yeah, funny how
National club publications.
stuff just runs through, and then on the back of probably in the back of the MGB driver, the North American MGB register, probably in the back of that newsletter, which I didn't get all the way through this month. There's always cars for sale there. So just take your time. That is the
Right.
operative word here. Take your time.
And don't buy
I've seen some pretty good ones on Bring a Trailer.
Yeah, there is some good
Okay,
ones on Bring a
great.
Trailer right now. There's a nice red one and a nice red one and a white one on Bring a Trailer. And I've always gotten all my MGs off of Facebook Marketplace and all the trouble that comes with Facebook Marketplace. But Bring a Trailer usually has some nice ones as well.
Thanks.
Try not to buy one that needs emissions testing, needs all that stuff on it. So
Yeah,
buy
that's
one earlier than 70.
before 76.
Yeah.
In the Golden State there. Yeah.
Especially in California.
Yep. Yep, for sure.
Barn Finds is another good one.
Barn Finds. That's it. I haven't seen that site yet. So
Oh,
okay.
well,
Sites
Oh,
come and go.
great.
It used to be Hemmings. Hemmings
Barn
was
Finds.
the place. But
Barn
then
Finds functions as sort of a clearinghouse. The cars are not listed necessarily with them. They're listed with, they have cars
Sure.
that are on eBay.
Okay.
They have cars that are on Bring a Trailer and so forth.
Yep.
But they have some of the older, rougher cars if you're in a mood for one. That were at one time on Bring a Trailer.
were at one time. Yeah. So, but man, there are so many experiences I've had. We had a guy bringing a car in for a complete lubrication. A family car. He'd been after it for 40 years. Finally, his sister gave it up. We brought it in, put it up on the hoist, started doing a complete lube on it. And it was one of 2 times that I quit doing a lube. It isn't worth it. It just, the car isn't worth even doing the lubrication to. It's scrap. And so, so I told the guy, and he said, well, all right. And so he looked for another car, exactly the same, Damask Red 74, something like that. And found one in California. And I bet we looked at 150 pictures. He came over to the shop, and every single picture we looked through and read everything. And he buys it without having it checked out, of course. And it gets to the shop, and there's a width like that of black, I don't know, silicone, mastic, something all around the windshield. It came off. It came off. We just trimmed it off. But it's just, you can't see everything. You just can't.
Yeah.
You can't. So,
Hey, Alan, you can buy a car in California, register it in Nevada. Works very well. Been there, done that.
yes.
Say that again. What is it?
Buy a car, particularly if you have emissions questions, register it in Nevada, and you can keep it in California. I did that for years.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on your legal risk tolerance.
Well, you're still you have an address or a friend or relative
Yep.
in Nevada, and you go in once a year to have it tested, which is really easy in Nevada. You have Nevada plates, and bingo, you're done.
I have a friend in Arizona.
It
Well, that's
might
a
be the
longer
same.
drive.
Yep. So here's one that says, why doesn't Moss and the MG Experience list all the British car shows? And of course, those why questions I have no answer to. So
Well, Moss, they got kind of bought up recently, right? They had some shakeups, I guess, in the last.
so what's
few
the
years.
first? What's the first? The absolutely overrunning, overarching first step with a private equity firm, right, is to squeeze the equity out of whatever they've purchased so they can pay their loans back. So that's what's going on. We'll see what happens in the long run, but yeah, it isn't pretty right now.
Yeah, I used to use Moss when I first got into MGs, and now I've really been kind of gravitating more towards British Parts Northwest has been
He runs a
preference
nice
for me.
operation, and then there are any
Yeah.
number of places. There's, even though owned by the same firm, there's Rimmer Brothers in England. There's Moss Europe in England. There's Brown and Gammons in England. There's Lamora in Germany. So there's a lot of places around. And then if you got an MG8, Scarborough Fair. You know, there's no. It used to be if you had an MGC, it was.
Kirk.
Oh, who's the MGC guy?
Robert Kirk.
Robert,
Kirk.
thank you. So there was always somebody around, you know. But anyway, we're just going through a transition time right now. So
Yeah, we went out to get a light switch on my 71 headlight switch, and go out to Scott, and two brand new ones were bad in the box. So we just start looking around other places to buy.
well, I told you we just tested two new sets of spark plug wires, and they had bad wires in them. So yeah, it's frustrating.
John, I looked
Yes.
at Moss. I looked at Moss today, and they actually now charge $5 for their catalog.
Really?
Well,
used to be free.
hey, you know, it's you can go online and it's free. So
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't
Pretty
put
cost
prices
money.
in the catalog anymore anyway.
So I've got the original. I've got a bunch of original, real early Moss catalogs when they first were just doing T-types, when they were working out of 5775 Dawson in Goleta, California. Glenn Adams was the counterman. They had pictures from Knott's Berry Farm on the back of their catalog. Said, you know, this is our metal shop. No, that was back in the catalog was always on the front. The Moss Motors, the first one said 50 cents cheap, which is what Mad Magazine did. So yeah, that was back in the day. So,
But they won't own their prices anymore.
yeah. MG. Oh, here we go. Brian Dawkins. Thank you. MG Owners Club. I just bought some stuff from there. Just bought some stuff from there. Brown and Gammons, yes. But MG Owners Club, the huge operation out of Cambridge.
Wow.
So anyway, lots of places to get parts.
I see
When's
that.
the next Zoom?
When is the next Zoom? That is just a moment. Just a moment. I wrote that down. Not another one this month because
I think you said June 8th.
yes, the 8th of June. Yes, I did.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
So, but everybody will get a note. So anyway, it's 9:30. Thank you everyone for being on board and coming on tonight. If I try to stop halfway through and make a pitch for PayPal, please. And I want to sound like Starvin' Marvin on I-95 going down through Georgia, but stop. I need your business. Send along what you can. Thank you very kindly. We'll have the new revised MGB book out. Of course, I'm still working, trying to get through the T-type book too, engine book. Anyway, thank you all very, very kindly for being here tonight. It's been a real pleasure.